JMath.
Hi, Grade 10s. Let's look at a few function questions. This comes from the 2019 November paper. Now, you can watch previous videos on all the theory of functions, but let's dive into these questions straight away. So if I look at what is given, I see there's a fx, and if you look nicely, there's nothing special with that x, so that means it's a straight line. Gx, on the other hand, has x in the exponent, so that means it's an exponential graph. 5.1.1, write down the equation of the asymptote of g. So I would just go and look at the q value, and the q value in this case would be -1. Question 5.1.2, sketch the graph of f and g on the same set of axes. Okay, so I'm going to start with the pink one, the straight line. Now, the easiest way to do any function is to use the table method. I will do that at the end, but the other way to do it is to get x-intercepts, y-intercepts, and then sketch this. So let's go for that first. So remember, if I want a x-intercept, I make y0. So in this case, I'm going to say 0 is equal to a half x plus 2. So now I must just do a little bit of algebra. I'm going to move the plus 2 to the left, and then I'm just going to multiply by 2 to get rid of the half. So I can say divided by a half, but remember with tip and times, that just means I'm multiplying by 2. So I can see the x-intercept of this graph is at -4. Remember, the equation of a straight line is y is equal to mx plus c, and that c value is the y-intercept. So I can also make x 0 by saying a half times 0 plus 2. But like I said, the value at the end is the y-intercept because it is the c value. Now, I can just go and make a dot where x is -4 and where y is 2. And then I can connect them. The other way to do this is with the table method. Okay, so on your calculator, you would go mode, you would press table, then next to fx, you are going to type in this exact value. So you're going to make a fraction, you're going to do a half, then you are going to press alpha and x, and then plus 2. We don't want a gx, so with gx, I'm just going to keep it 0. Then you press equal, it goes to the next one. For start, in this case, you can see my thing goes to -4. So I'm actually going to say my start is -4. My end will be 1 or 2, doesn't really matter. Let's go for 2. And step in grade 10 functions is always just 1. If you type that in, you would see this on your calculator. Then you go and make each coordinate and just connect them. Okay. For many people, that is too much work for straight lines, so they just plot the y-intercept and the x-intercept and then connect the line. You can really choose the method as long as your teacher can see the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Then they don't care which method you used. Okay, so let's just connect this and then we can draw the blue graph. So with gx, I can see this is an exponential function. Whenever you draw an exponential function, always start with the asymptote. So at y equals -1, I am going to draw a dotted line. Then I'm going to do the table method again, and then I'm going to plot the points. In this case, with the table method, you can just go -1 and 1 for start and end, or -2 and 2. You can choose. They just want to see what's the y-intercept and the x-intercept. So according to my table method, when x is -1, y is a half, so I'm just going to make a dot there. 0 is 0. And then when x is 1, y is going to be 1. And when x is 2, y is 3. So I can see that's on the pink graph as well. But now I can connect them, start just above the asymptote, go through all the dots, and then go up. That is my G graph. Okay, so they can see my asymptote, they can see my x and y intercept, even though it's the same intercept, and then my shape is correct. So for that, I will get all 4 marks for drawing F and G. For question 3, using your graph, write down the coordinates of one point of intersection between F and G in the first quadrant. I can see they are talking about that specific dot, and that dot is 2 units to the right and 3 units up. So for that, I get my 2 marks, one for X, one for Y. Question 4, write down the equation of Hx. Okay, so I can see F and G. H is not even there, it's a new graph they're introducing, which is the reflection of Gx, the blue one, along the y-axis. So when I get a question like this, I'm going to write hx, then I'm going to write the original blue one, and I know I need to change something. Something you must please study is that if I reflect a graph in the y-axis, I just put a minus in front of x. If I reflect it on the x-axis, I put a minus in front of y or in front of the hx in this case. But now they just want me to put a minus in front of x. Now, sometimes you will get full marks for only doing that. Please don't be lazy. Just make sure that you rewrite this as a half to the power x, because that is the standard form of an exponential graph. We don't want a minus in front of x or y. We want to change other things so that it remains in standard form. Okay, guys, so even though they don't ask it, let me just show you how it would look if I draw this hx. So those three blue dots that we got on the calculator with the table method, all of them is just now going to reflect across the y-axis, which means if it was 1 to the left, it's now going to be 1 to the right. 0, 0 would stay the same, and then the one that was 1 to the right now goes 1 to the left. Okay, so everything is just flipping around the y-axis. It would look like that, and that would be h. They didn't ask for that, but just for interest, that's how it would look. Question 5. What is the range of f, the pink one? Okay, if it is a straight line, the range will always be y is an element of real numbers. You can also write it as y is an element of minus infinity to positive infinity. Remember, range asks the question, where does this graph start at the bottom and where does it end at the top? So on my graph, I can see it starts at like -2 and it ends at like 6, but there's arrows going up and down, so you can't tell anyone where those arrows means it stops. That's why we write infinity for range. For interest's sake, domain would also be the same. It would just be x is an element of infinity to infinity because it's not stopping left and right either. So now, before getting to question 6, this whole question you see on screen counts out of 11 marks. I would say everything we've done up until now was fairly easy, that you've seen it in class, you've done it in homework, and it's really not tricky. It's only the last question that's a bit complicated. So guys, please don't get the mindset of functions is so difficult I can't do it because of single questions in the paper. Okay, question 6 is tricky. But if you study it hard enough, you can understand it and you can get full marks. Never ever give up on functions. There's so many easy marks to get if you know the table method and x-intercepts and y-intercepts. Do not give up on this chapter, even though some questions feels difficult. Please, guys. You have a long road till matric, and the foundation lies in grade 10. If this is strong, then grade 11 and grade 12 will be so much easier. So question 6. Determine the values of x for which fx times gx will be greater than 0. Now, something you need to remember, how do I get a plus? So remember, greater than 0 means a plus, and I get that by multiplying a plus times a plus and a minus times a minus. We learned that in grade 7, 8 along the way. In functions, that now means where is both graphs above the line or where are both graphs below the line. So please just follow this method and this will not be difficult. We are firstly going to draw vertical lines with every x-intercept. So I can see there's a pink x-intercept and a blue x-intercept. So I'm just going to take my ruler and draw lines on those 2 points. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to write pluses and minuses everywhere. So let's start from left to right. The pink graph is below the y-axis on the left. So I'm going to do a minus right there. In the middle between the orange lines, there's a plus because the pink graph goes above the x-axis. Then on the right, the same thing. The pink graph is still above the line. Now we're going for blue. I can see the blue graph is just below the x-axis, but in this case, it's still below. In the middle section, it's also below. And then in the right-hand section, it now goes above the black line or the x-axis. Now this question just asks me, where is both below or both above? So I'm looking for minus minus. That would be all the values where x is smaller than 4. So to answer the question, I would say x is smaller than 4. Please look at the sign that they give you. They are saying 0 is included, so I must say x is smaller or equal to 4. Then I must check if there's another section. So in the middle section, this is a plus and a minus, so that's not what I'm looking for. But in the right-hand section, I have a plus and a plus. So yes, that's what I'm looking for. So I can say x is greater or equal to 0. And that's how you would answer this question. So it seems a bit tricky. If you practice a few of them, it will be a piece of cake. So like I said, this comes straight from a November paper from 2019. That was 11 marks. I would say only the last 2 marks is something that you couldn't really study and it's not as easy as the other marks. But now that you know a method, you can get all 11 marks easily for your next exam. Please just work hard and you can get this. Question 5.2 in the same paper. In the figure below, the sketch graphs of f and g are given. C is a point on the graph of f, and A is the point where they intersect. The angle between the line G and the x-axis is 45. Write the gradient of G. Okay, so in grade 10, this can be a bit tricky, but if you study this one, they can only ask you one specific question in this case, and it must always be 45 when you are in grade 10. In grade 11, we teach you a method on how to do this, but in grade 10, you must just know if they say the angle is 45, it just means the gradient is exactly 1. Question 2, what is the equation of the G graph? Now, because it's a straight line, I can say it's y equals mx plus c. Okay, some textbooks go for ax plus q. It means exactly the same. In question 1, we saw that the gradient was 1. So I can replace m with the gradient, or I can replace a, and the c in this case represents the y-intercept. I can clearly see the y-intercept is 0, so you can write plus 0, or you can just leave it like that, and that is the answer. For 1 mark, I must just say y is equal to x. Question 3, determine the equation of f. Now, because f is a hyperbola, the standard equation in grade 10 would be a over x plus q. Q represents the asymptote, and the asymptote is the dotted line. If I don't see the dotted line, then it means it's a 0. So I can replace this q with a 0 or just not write anything in this specific case. Now I'm looking for any other coordinate that I have on the pink line, and they were very nice to give me this c coordinate. So I can go and replace the y with 3 over 2, and then the x I can replace with a 4. So now a bit of algebra. We are going to multiply the 4 to the left, and I always multiply it to the top if it was a denominator. So I'm doing cross multiplication, but I'm only doing it halfway. That will give me a 12 over 2 is equal to a, and therefore a is equal to 6. Now to finish the question, the equation of f would be 6 over x. I do not need to write the plus 0. If you do, you will not lose marks. Question 4. Determine the coordinates of A if A is the closest point to the origin. Okay? They told me in the paragraph up top, A is the point of intersection between the two graphs. And whenever we do point of intersection, I am just going to take the two equations that I got, and I'm going to make them equal to each other. So we saw that the blue graph was just 1x. We saw that the pink graph was 6 over x. So I'm just ignoring the y values for now. I'm just making the other parts of the equations equal to each other. And now I just need to solve. So remember, this x is actually x over 1. So if I cross multiply, this would be x times the pink x, and then 6 times the blue 1 from the left. And then I get x squared is equal to 6. I want x alone, so I'm just going to put the square root on the other side. Now, some of you will maybe ask me, isn't it always a rule that if I put my own square root, I must put a plus minus? Yes, 100%. You will see these two graphs intersect there and there. So this one would be minus root 6 because it's on the left, and this one would be at positive root 6. They are asking me specifically for a, so that's why I'm just ignoring the one on the left. But technically, I should write plus minus there. Okay, so guys, I'm choosing the positive one because it is a. So I'm saying that is my answer. Therefore, x is plus and minus root 6. But I am choosing x, which is a positive root 6. Now, they asked me for a coordinate, and I must now sub it into any of my equations, pink or blue. I am going to go for the blue one because it says that y is whatever x is. So I'm just subbing my x value into the blue equation, and therefore it is just root 6, root 6. To answer the question, the a value is root 6, root 6. Okay, that was 6 marks. I think it was fairly easy because there were so many zeros. But yeah, let me know if you struggled or if it was fine. Question 6 of the same 2019 paper says, they give me a graph for f and g. I highlighted already, just to save a bit of time. Determine the equation of f and g as shown below for 5 marks. Guys, so extremely important. You must know your base theory to do functions. If you don't, you will not know these two equations, and then you will lose 5 marks, and you won't be able to do any of the other questions. So please study this. Now, for any parabola, the q value in grade 10 would be the y-intercept of the graph. So I can replace this q with an 8. Now I'm just looking for any other coordinate that I have, and I'm going to sub that into x and y and solve. Now on the pink graph, I'm not going to use a because I've used the 8 already, so I must use the pink b, which says x is minus 2 if y is 0. Now I can just solve and figure out what is a. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this 8 to the other side. Because it was a plus on the right, it will become a minus on the left. Now I must ask myself, what is minus 2 times minus 2? It is just 4. Okay, I want a alone, so I'm going to divide by 4, and therefore a is minus 2. I must rewrite the formula to say y is equal to minus 2x squared plus 8. If I go over to the blue equation, y is equal to mx plus c, I can immediately see the y-intercept, so I'm going to change the c value to minus 4. So now I need to sub in a coordinate to solve for m. And if I look at the blue graph, I already used the minus 4, so I'm going to use the b value now, which says 0 is equal to y, and minus 2 is equal to x. So it's actually the same coordinate I used with the pink graph because it was on both. So now I can move the 4 over, and it becomes 4 is equal to minus 2m. I divide both sides by minus 2, and therefore m is 4 over minus 2, which is just equal to minus 2. I must rewrite and say y is equal to minus 2x minus 4. Okay, for that I will get 5 marks in the exam. If you don't get these two, the rest are all unfortunately going to be wrong. They'll mark your method, but you won't get full marks for the rest if your equations was not right. Question 2, FG is parallel to the y-axis. Determine the length of the vertical line, FG. Okay, so I can see it's there. I'm not making it pink or blue. So I need to check, what do I have on that line? Now, something you must please remember, if it's a vertical line, all the x's are the same value. The y's can be different because it's up and down and not equally from all the other parts, but the x's will be the same. So I can see E is 1 and 0. So therefore, G will also be 1 and something. I need to figure it out. And F would be 1 and something. I need to figure it out. Now, I can see on which color graph it is, sub in those x values, and then figure out what the y values would be. That's exactly my step 1 in this case. So let's do F first. F is on the pink graph, so I can say y is equal to, I'm going to use the one that we just found, minus 2x squared plus 8. Now, I know that the y value is 1. So I can just type that in the calculator or do a bit of mental math. And that says minus 2. 1 times 1 stays 1. So it's minus 2 plus 8, which is just 6. So I can now complete the coordinate of f because I now know it's 1 to the right and 6 up. Let's do the blue graph as well. So y is equal to minus 2 times x minus 4. The x value of g is also 1 because it's on that vertical line. And now if I do that sum, I can see minus 2 minus 4 is actually minus 6. And therefore, to find the distance, I always just take the top value minus the bottom value. So 6 minus 6 would equal 12 units. Always take the big one minus the small one. Remember your brackets if you need to. Question 3, write down the range of f. Range is always y. And now I can just ask the question, if I read from the bottom to the top, where does this graph start at the bottom? There are arrows at the bottom. So it starts at minus infinity. Okay, and infinity is always a round bracket. How high does it go? It does not pass 8. So 8 is a block bracket. Remember, you could have also just wrote y is smaller or equal to 8. So any one of those two would get you full marks in an exam. Question 4, write down the values of x for which fx is greater than 0. Now I'm going to take away everything else that we don't need, that you can just focus on the pink graph. They are asking me, for which x values does it go above the x-axis? Okay, I'm going to take away this highlight. Now, please read with me. If I am on the left, so everywhere before minus 2, this graph is not bigger than 0 because all the values are smaller than 0. If you look at this y values that I have there. Okay, so left of minus 2, it's definitely not bigger than 0. When I pass this specific point, and I draw the graph, all of these values go above the x-axis. So that is where the fx graph goes above 0 because now my y values will be 2, 4, and 6, and all the way up until 8. If I go past this specific point, I'm going below the x-axis again. So now my y values is not positive. So that's not part of my answer. So I'm going to take away the parts that's not correct and only write this thing is bigger than 0 when x lies between minus 2 and 2. You could also write it as x is an element of, and I need to use round brackets, minus 2 and 2. Okay, grade 10s, that was all the function questions in the 2019 paper. Please rewatch this video as many times as you have to just make sure you understand these concepts, and ask your teachers, send me a comment, and maybe we can do more videos like this to explain finer detail. But this is all about practicing and knowing your basic stuff before you can go to the advanced questions. Good luck with that.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JMath.